What if you could take that risk, make that change, reach that goal, live your best life? Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast, where we get together with amazing experts and everyday people who share challenges, encourage healing, and explore the possibilities that life has to offer. I'm your host, Gary Scott, and I'm excited that you're along for the ride. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast. And my effervescent guest here with me today is Lynette Weldon. Hello, Lynette.
Hello, Gary. It's great to be here. I'm excited to talk with you.
Yay, I'm excited to have you. I mean, like I said, this is near and dear topic of yours, and I know you just got in late from Florida, but we're still going to have fun and make a challenging topic enlightening for everybody, right?
Yes.
Cool, Biz. Well, I'm going to go ahead so everyone knows who we're playing with. I'm going to read your bio real quick, if that's okay.
Okay.
Cool, Biz. Okay, guys, we have Lynette Weldon. With over 3 decades of experience as a caregiver, Lynette has walked the challenging path of selflessness, dedication, and resilience. Her journey has been marked by both triumph and tragedy, as she has not only provided unwavering support to those of her care, but has also faced the devastating loss of her husband to suicide. Through those trials, she has intimately understood the depths of heartbreak, hardship, and the struggles that can consume one's life. However, she's refused to let these challenges define her. Instead, she chose to rise above them, determined to find her light and purpose amidst the darkness. Through her own healing process, Lynette's discovered the keys to overcoming the overwhelming stress, neglect of self care, and the lack of boundaries that often plague caregivers. It is this hard won wisdom that she now shares with others, guiding them on their own path to reclaiming their lives and rediscovering their joy. Lynette specializes in helping individuals manage stress, overcome overwhelm, prioritize self care, set healthy boundaries, and cultivate a resilient mindset. I understand the unique challenges that caregivers face, says Lynette, and I'm passionate about empowering them to find balance, purpose, and fulfillment in their lives. Through the work that they do together, Lynette and her clients learn to release guilt, reconnect with their authentic selves, find their purpose outside of their role as a caregiver, and experience the joy and vitality that they deserve. That is all really awesome stuff, my friend. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for that.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's awesome stuff. Well, there's so much to get into. Like I said, I've been both on both sides of this caregivers thingy, and but because we're the What If You Could podcast, I just always start with my one question. I just wonder, it could be, about the caregiving or just an episode in your life. Have you ever had a what if I could moment, what if you could moment you want to share?
Well, I just did right now. Mine is, yeah. What if I could? I would go back and tell my younger self to go for it, not to be afraid of trying or failure or just really be true to who you are and what you want to see in your life.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I mean, that's awesome. Wouldn't we all love to go back and share some things we've learned, with our younger selves? And that's a great one. We know we let so many people and so many things hold us back. But your caregiving now, this is a big thing. I mean, people I don't think realize unless you've walked a mile in our moccasins what
Yeah.
it's like to
Hmm.
care for someone either on a professional basis or just a family member. So, were you a professional caregiver, or did you just happen to stumble into it taking care of a loved one?
Gary, it really started, I think I was 11, 12 years old. And I watched my mom care for my dad, who had a brain tumor, multiple brain surgeries, chemotherapy, radiation. And so I saw what she went through caring for him for years. And, you know, still had to work, still had to take care of the kids, all of that. And so that's was my first exposure to it. And then fast forward, I have a daughter And I was so excited to have a girl. I have two boys, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to have a girl finally. Not that I didn't love the boys and the soccer and the football and all that kind of stuff. I just wanted a girl. Right. And I'll never forget when they came in and, they said, we suspect that she has some problems. And they weren't sure. They went back and forth for a couple of days. Um, but at that moment, it was like my life completely changed. You're expecting one thing, and then your reality changes and you have something different, right? And so then, I have her, and throughout all of it, the whole family, we did the best we could. We learned how to cope. And there's a lot of issues that go into that I'm sure we'll kind of talk about. But then fast forward again to a point in my life where I had started a nonprofit horse rescue, where we do when traditional therapy doesn't work, they come here for non-traditional therapy. And we did services for the counties surrounding us. And the
I'm sorry,
one,
did you say horse?
yes,
Working with
yes,
horses? Oh,
yes,
love that. Oh,
yeah,
yeah. Equine therapy's amazing.
huge.
Love
Yeah,
horses. So I'm
yeah.
sorry. I'm sorry. So go on. I just want to make
No,
sure I
that's
heard
okay.
horse right.
Um,
Okay, go.
yeah. And so with that, the one thing that I noticed with that program is that, the clients that were coming here for the therapy got all the services. But then you looked at the parents and the caregivers, and they had nothing, and they were exhausted and overwhelmed and just basically burnt out. And I just thought, I managed to figure out how to navigate all of it, pull myself out of the burnout. And I just felt like, it was something that I had to share with other people, because, obviously I was not alone in what was going on, you know? And so that's kind of how it all started. Yeah.
Well, that's a whole bunch. Holy cow. I mean, that's a lot. So when you're very young, you're watching your mom care for your dad. And
Yes.
you know, our parents are so great about hiding stuff from us. I mean, I was
Mhm.
so great about hiding when their mom was sick, hiding some stuff from the boys. They're mad at me. They
Yeah.
were mad at me for 5 years because they thought I hid a lot more, but I
Mhm.
didn't. But the actual day-to-day grind of it, I hid from them. And I hate to use the term grind because you love someone and
Yeah, but
but it is a
it
grind,
is. It is a
right?
grind, right?
Tell me, I've got a million questions now. I went from none to a million all of a sudden. Tell me about the horse therapy real quick. I mean, that I love that. What's the deal with
Um,
the?
that really kind of evolved. And, 25 years ago, that's what I did. I trained horses. And I kind of had a way with horses that nobody wanted to deal with, you know? And I just started to notice how they really affected me, for one. It was almost like, um, when you have to meditate, you have to be, you need to be really present. And so that job actually for me was therapy for myself. And so it just kind of evolved. And I had always wanted to work with at-risk youth. And so I started there. Um, and then the county found out what we were doing, and they came and said, would you be interested in doing this program? And so that's kind of how that started. But it really comes down to um, not, I love therapists, and I've been in therapy myself on and off. And I think that there's a time and place for it. But I also think that with some people, it just doesn't work. And they need to find a different way. And when you're around an animal like that, you have to be extremely present in the moment.
Yeah.
You have to know exactly what's going on inside of you, how you feel, how you move. You can't hide anything from them. Um, and so it's just, it's incredible what they can actually do, and how it can improve somebody's self-worth, self-esteem, how they now view themselves. It gives them confidence. It helps them regulate feelings. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on.
Yeah. And the thing about the horses is you can't bullshit a horse. I mean, they know.
No,
I
they
mean, they look
know.
right through your soul
Hmm.
and they know, and
Yeah.
they react to what they know about you. You
Hmm.
can't hide it. It's the most amazing thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love the horses and I love working with the horse training. And I think, with the At Youth Challenge, I think that's a wonderful thing. But so when you're watching your mom go through this, um, was it affecting the family? Was your mom able to hide this, or could you just see the toll it was taking on your mom, and that was kind of starting to work
Yeah.
on you a little bit, or
Yeah. When you're 11 or 12, you don't really know what to do, right? And let's just face it, teenagers they're a little selfish, they come first, they think about themselves. But I do, the one thing that stands out in my mind still to this day was me thinking, I don't ever want to end up like that because, it was horrible what she went through, right? And then, 20 some years later, here I there I was, and I remember going back to that and just thinking, I don't know how she I don't know how she did it. I really don't, because back then I think it was even worse. There was like no support. And that was back in the day where, when you weren't doing good, the doctor just wanted to give you, the magic little pill to help you cope with things. And it was just a terrible time for our whole family at that point, you
yeah, I mean,
know.
it's not like mom already doesn't have enough on her plate, right? It's not like mom
Right.
isn't already grinding it out as it is, and then mom's like,
Yeah.
"Well, I just lost my partner to being sick. Now I've got to take on
Yeah.
another role and try to keep all the balls in the air and try to keep the kids from."
Hmm.
Seeing too much of what's going on and the pain of it,
Yeah.
you try to protect your children and stuff. And I think
Hmm.
that's where so much of what you talked about comes in. I mean, the guilt, the anxiety, the overwhelm. I mean, it's just nonstop. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
nonstop. Um, and then your dad committed suicide from
My
all that he was
husband.
going through.
No, my husband did.
Oh, your husband did.
Yes. Yes.
Was he sick previous to that, or did you know this was coming, or did he just, I'm
Um,
out of here?
he had suffered with severe depression on and off his whole lifetime. Had suffered from, addiction, would be sober for years and years and years, but didn't do the things that he really needed to do in order, to continue to stay clean and feel good about himself. And the depression would come back in, and um, he did at the end, it started to affect him physically. He had some, organ issues. And we did not see it coming. In hindsight, you do, you look back and you think, how did I miss that? You know? And the really good part of it though is the last 5 years of his life were really good for all of us. But I think it was that he did not want us to have to take care of him, you know, and
Yeah.
made the decision that he no longer wanted to be here. Um, and that's another thing that, we don't talk about enough. We don't talk about, suicide and grieving. And, I just think that the one thing that I remember the most is, there were a lot of people who could not understand why I wasn't angry with him. And I wasn't angry with him, you know, I just wasn't. And I think that maybe that helped me work through that maybe a little bit easier. I don't want to say easier, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
So were you, and I'm sorry to keep going back to this because I just want to get clear in
sure.
my very tiny brain is, were you ever a professional caregiver, or you just through taking care and watching your mom and seeing the different things and caring for this, that you've seen this and you want to help people with this, or
Well,
have you
yeah.
been a professional care people for people who are ill?
Um, Not necessarily, no. I mean, I worked for a year in a treatment center. I did some respite, but my daughter was born with Down syndrome, and then at 8 months old, juvenile diabetes. We were told she had a hole in her heart. So with her, it was a full time 24/7. When you're that young at 8 months old, she was the youngest that they had ever seen at Children's Hospital here in Minneapolis, with juvenile diabetes. And back then, 35 years ago, there wasn't the technology that we have now. And so literally every 3 hours, I had to set an alarm to get up and check her blood sugar, because when you're 8 months old, you can't communicate, and so, yeah. So, and I was a full-time care. I still am, pretty much. She has a really good life, and she does go to respite 3 days a week, but then the rest of the time she's here with me. Um, yeah, so I get it on a very deep personal level. What happens when you are thrown into that? Your whole reality changes, and now you have to learn how to navigate all of this. For most caregivers, Gary, I think you kind of touched on it a little bit. You try to hide a lot of what's going on, because first of all, we shouldn't be grieving. They're still alive. What is wrong with us that we would be grieving this situation? Second, I think that we try to hide, that we really do need help, and we try not to put it on like the kids or the spouse. Um, we want to do the best job that we can. And if we say, I just don't know if I can do this, we're afraid of judgment. We're afraid we're going to be judged. We're not caring enough for that person. You start to get isolated, you know, um, a lot of canceled plans, can't do things you used to do. People stop asking you. They don't know what to say, what to do for you. Pretty soon you're isolated. The depression kicks in, the overwhelm. I mean, it's just can be a downward spiral.
The isolation's a really wicked thing. People don't realize, they want to be helpful
Uh-huh.
and you want help desperately. You
Hmm.
just have no clue to ask. And it's always kind of like,
Yeah.
well, I'll just do it.
Hmm.
I got to give them a bath. I'll just do it. I've got to
Right.
change their beddings or I'll just do it, because
Hmm.
that time I ask someone and they come over and then I feel bad and I did, but, you know what I mean? And then, I mean, I lost friends over it when I was taking care of my wife when she had
Yeah.
cancer. It
Yeah.
was like they're like, you've completely shut us out while April was sick, and I'm like, well, I didn't mean to. I was
Right.
going 24/7. I said I lived off of oxygen and adrenaline for 2 years. I mean,
Right.
you know, it wasn't like I purposely did it. So then you've got the guilt of that besides the guilt of you just going, God, I can't even do this anymore, right? There's just so
Right.
many emotions that you get torn apart with.
Exactly. Yep. And the other thing people don't talk about too is that, there's a part of you that at one point you're a little angry and you're a little resentful, but you don't talk about it again, because fear judgment. Are people going to understand, how I feel? And then when you live like that for so long, it starts to affect your self-worth, and you completely lose who you are or who you were before it all started.
Yeah. And I tried to go into a men's group. They said, "Oh, go into a cancer, men's group with other guys whose wives are, you know, sick with cancer, dying, whatever." And oh man, I spent one day in this men's group, and I'm like, I am out of here. These guys suck. They were just, it was mostly like
Yeah.
being in a golf house clubhouse. They're
Uh-huh.
talking about cheating. They're talking about all this crazy shit, and none of it was about their spouse, which I guess
Yeah.
is good. You're supposed to share your own challenge, but it was really unhealthy. It was
Yeah.
really unhealthy for me.
Yeah.
So like you said, so you don't really have an outlet. It's not like you can call someone up and say, "I want to push my wife off a cliff." It's it's not
Well,
something you kind of
and
openly tell,
that's a normal, valid feeling some days, right?
right? And it's
I
not her
mean,
fault that I'm mad at her, and it's
right.
not her fault she feels so bad, and it's not, what people don't get is that people who are really, really sick and people who are dying are angry too. You know
They
what I mean?
are.
They're mean. They're mad. They're mean. And you're the only person they could take it out on. So not
Yeah.
only are you covering up all this stuff and trying to do the best you can, but the person you're caring for is being mean to you. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's hard.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
painful kind of, uh,
It is. It is. And I know exactly what you're saying about the group. I have a private Facebook group for caregivers. It's a support group. And the first thing that they hear from me when they come into the group is, if you are here to complain and believe that you are going to be stuck like this for the rest of your life, you don't belong here. If you want to learn how to change things and do things different and lift each other up, that's one thing, but there's a lot of bad support out there.
yeah, when I got my cancer, I got into a Facebook page for people with my type of cancer, and it was amazing. It was super great. I mean, I learned a lot. We were all supportive. We still are.
Yeah.
Part of me doesn't want to go back into it sometimes because then you hear, oh, we lost Fred. It's like, wait a
No.
minute. It came back and you lost it. It's like, ooh, I don't know if I can take that. And the same
Right.
thing with being a caregiver. It's like, I was I took my wife to every chemo and I sat with her because I wanted to, right?
Hmm.
But walking into those rooms is super wicked. Walking
Yeah.
into those rooms with them. And but you deal with all sorts of different caregiving issues. I mean, obviously your daughter doesn't have cancer, so you've dealt with the addiction and loss of your husband. You deal with your daughter's
Hmm.
illness. Your father's. What your mom. I mean, you've kind of got a lot of different caregiving history there.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. And
So when
that,
you're doing, so you actually started a coaching program. Is that what you've done, or you're
yeah.
working with
Hmm.
people to try to help them who are going through this?
Yeah. Yeah. Because here's
Tell
the,
us how you do that. I mean, what do you do for us
um,
drowning caregivers?
there's a lot of layers to that one, Gary. Um, you know, in my program, one of the very first things that we do is just take a look at, the stressors. What are your stressors? And then how are you coping? You know,
Mm,
and in the beginning, there's a lot of bad coping skills going on to numb it and to not deal with it. And so we take a look at all of that first. And then the biggest thing, really, that you wouldn't even think kind of plays into it is that it really starts to attack their self-worth. And here's the thing is that, you hear all the time, well, you have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself. And you do, as a caregiver, you need to learn how to take care of yourself and implement self-care. But if you don't believe that you're worthy of it, you don't do it. And so that there's so many things that plays into that, it's what were you told? What is your belief system? What is your self-talk? And so we look at all of that so that they can get to the point where they actually believe that they are worthy of taking some time for themselves, and that it's okay. Because I think for a lot of women, especially, not saying that men don't feel that way, but I think for a woman, we're conditioned to take care of people. You take care of the kids, you take care of your spouse, and then you throw in somebody who's sick or has a diagnosis, and you go into overdrive. Then and so you have to really believe that it's okay for you to take some time asking for help and setting some boundaries, learning
yeah.
how to protect your energy is a big one too. So there's all different, steps and processes that we go through in this program. And but I'm going back to that self-worth seems to be the biggest one through all of it. And really looking at, why do you believe it's not okay for you to take care of yourself? Why do you believe that you have to absolutely do everything for this person, or you're not a good wife or husband or mother or, daughter, you know?
Not everyone's cut out to be a caregiver. Some
Right.
people just can't do it.
Right.
When I got my cancer, before I told my wife about the diagnosis, um, she was away, and when she got back, I said, I think we should separate. We were newly married, like maybe year and a half, 2 years, and I said, I think we should separate. We should divorce. You're not a caregiver, and that's no offense. I've known you now for 3 years, and you're not. This will totally destroy you, right?
Yeah.
And so if you leave now, it's just like, it didn't work out. They got a divorce. They've only been married a short time. They only knew each other a year during COVID, right?
Yeah.
But if you leave when I'm in the shit, right? If you leave when I'm in the weeds and things are really bad, it's like, well, she left a dude dying from cancer,
Right.
right? So you you need to go. So she's like, no, 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 we'll make it work. So fortunately, thank God I had a very mild cancer, if there's such a thing, um, was able to take myself to all my treatments, take care of that stuff, and we were able to get through it. But I think it's okay for people to admit I'm not handling this well,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
I love you and I'm trying. I've been a great husband or a great wife, but this is above and beyond what I'm capable of, and I really need help. I mean,
Yeah.
right? I mean, don't you think that it's fair for someone to just come clean with that?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And, I've had several clients who have raised kids, for 18, 19 years with diagnosis, and they're just done. They don't want to do it anymore. And so, we have to, try to help them recognize that it's okay that you don't want to continue to do this. This is not what a mother does. You don't continue to mother a 20, 30, 40-year old, if that's not what you want to do, it's okay. And that's really hard for people, and it's hard for a spouse to just, admit, I just don't want to do this.
Well, again, that's where the anger and the guilt comes in. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm angry with
Mhm.
you because we had a life, we were doing stuff. I'm
Yeah.
still young, I'm still healthy. I can't even envision spending the next 5, 6, 10 years, 2 years, 1 year, just taking care of your ass. I can't even, I have a life too. I'm young and I'm healthy, whatever. So you've got
Mhm.
that kind of anger part of it, which plays
Yeah.
into the guilt part of it,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
and then there's the grief part of it. Well, I'm losing
Hmm.
my partner, I'm losing a daughter, or maybe
Yeah.
I'm not losing them, but they're sick, and I'm going to care for them for the rest of my life. Which, how does that affect my life?
Right.
Um, it just wears on you, right? I mean, it could just
Right.
wear you down. And so when you're
Yeah.
coaching people, when you're working with them,
Mhm.
is that something that you find you're constantly trying to dig people out of that syndrome?
Well, they have to really acknowledge and be honest with themselves on how they really are feeling, right? Because if you don't, you can't move through that. You can't solve what's going on if and I think most people, your first reaction is you just shove that feeling down and you ignore it and you just put your head down and you power through, right? But you have to really, stop and acknowledge what's going on and why you're feeling that way to then change it. And, you kind of started talking about the loss of an identity. And that's another thing that I try to get these, most of my clients are women. I would say 98% of them I've had, some men, but most of them are women. Um, but they lose their identity in all of it. All of a sudden now their whole identity is just being the caregiver. And I think that is where a lot of the resentment comes in, because now you don't even know, you don't even recognize who you are anymore, and so they have to learn how to remember who they were before this happened. And they might not be able to get 100% of that back, but you can still have portions of it. It might just be a little bit different. It might look a little bit different, but it's important for them to take a look at, what used to make me happy, what filled me up, what gave me joy, what gave me energy, and trying to get some of that back, even if it's just a little piece here and a little piece there in their life, so that they start to remember that they are a person and a human also beyond this caregiving role.
Yeah, I mean, you're not a superhero. You know,
Mm-mm.
you're a person who got thrown into a really difficult situation,
Yes.
and like you talk about with the overwhelm, I mean, there's just that massive overwhelm is wicked bad. It's just
Yeah.
like the weight of everything, and like I had girlfriends who were, caring for a spouse, and it's like, dude, when's the last time you took a shower? When's the
Yeah.
last time you went out and got a mani-pedi? I mean, when is the
Yeah.
last time you went out and did something for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're exhausted. I mean, you're
Right.
down to your bones, your fiber. You've got to go away. Find
Yeah.
someone to take this for a couple days and go do something,
Yeah.
because like you said, I mean, trying to find something that gives you energy in that situation is almost impossible because you just don't have any energy for anything, right? You're just one step in
Well,
front of the other.
but it's not impossible. It's just learning how to do things different. It's learning how to do things different. It's learning how to look at things different, change your mindset, change how you're moving through life, um, taking the moments that you can and filling back up. Because when you're a caregiver, shit's going to hit the fan eventually, right? You better be ready for it. You can't be depleted. You can't be exhausted. And the one thing I try to get them to recognize is if you continue like this, you're not going to be here for the long haul. You can't burn the candle at both ends forever. And so you have to start to do things different. And when they do, you know, most often 2, 3 weeks into my program, they're like, this really works, and I'm like, yeah, it does. You know, you just have to start doing things different. And I'm a huge one on in the morning when you get up as a caregiver, you're in stress, fight or flight mode. Your feet hit the ground before you're even awake, worried about what might have happened last night, what's going to happen today. And you're already in a state of fight or flight, right?
Yeah.
And so if you can learn just to take 2 minutes, don't look at your phone, don't think the worst, but just take 2 minutes and think about, okay, what am I grateful for? I think gratitude changes how you move and how you feel as a human. And, you know, just a couple minutes in the morning and then set an intention for the day. What do I absolutely have to do today? 2 or 3 things. Take a deep breath. How do I want to feel today? Take a deep breath and then get up, you know. But it's just learning, and that might sound silly to some people, but if you do it, it does make a difference.
Yeah. Well, I think it makes all the difference in the world the way you lay it out, because the truth of the matter is, like you said, we get up and our hair is on fire right when our feet
Hmm.
hit the ground. It's
Right.
like, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to schedule, got to get prescriptions, I got to, change bedding, I got to do this, I got to tell the kids,
Hmm.
I just gotta, right?
Right.
And you can't, you're just burning your adrenals. You can't live in that sort of
Mm-mm.
state. You
No.
have to drop back and give yourself, like you said, even 5 minutes of just meditation, of just me time,
Yeah.
of just
Yep.
turn everything off. It's like everything will be fine for the next 5, 10, 15 minutes, right? It just will
Right.
be.
It will. Yeah.
Even if the house is on fire, I just gotta, I'll turn on the hose in a minute. But
Yeah.
so, but
I
when you
always say,
do,
yeah,
yeah,
nobody ever died because your floor is dirty. Nobody's going to die because
right.
there's, a sink full of dirty dishes. Who cares right now? What's more important,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just, and if the kids eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for dinner again, I
Oh,
don't
well.
care.
Yeah. Right.
Sorry, I don't care.
Yeah.
Um, so when you do your coaching, is it like a one-on-one thing? Is it a group Zoom thing, or how
All
do
of,
you do
yeah,
your coaching? All
all
of
of
that?
the above. We have 2 group sessions a week, and then they get a one-on-one session with me. And so there's a lot of support. And then they also get a training module that's sent right to their email. Because I get it. I've been there. You can't always be there by 1 o'clock, things happen. And so,
Mhm,
they can do that whenever it fits into their life.
mhm.
Yeah.
And so is it a is it like a 6 week class? Is it a 6 week program, and people just come and go when they need it, or
You know,
how is it structured?
it's an 8-week course.
Mhm.
And so it goes for 8 weeks. And like I said, there's 2 groups a week and a session with me every week. And then they're in the private caregiver group that we have. So there's a ton of support for them. And
That's awesome.
what's nice about the group coaching, though, is that, you know, they come in, I don't wait and have everybody start. They just come in and graduate and come in and graduate, because
Mhm.
I think it's really important that they see other women who are maybe 2, 3 weeks ahead of them, and they see, wow, this really can work. And if she can do it, I can do it, and type thing. So there's a lot of good support there.
I like that. So it's not like these 6 people start at the same time. They go through 8 weeks and see you later. It's like people can come in at different pace of the
Mhm.
program.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that keeps a great perspective on things when people can jump in, and it takes a lot of stress off the participant too, I would imagine, because you've already got enough things that you believe you're letting fall through the cracks, or enough people you're
Right.
letting down, right? So if
Right.
you can kind of jump in there when you can,
Yeah.
I would imagine that take a lot of stress off the student,
Yeah, for
who's
sure.
joining on that
Hmm.
type of thing. So
Yeah.
how did you put this program together? When did you decide that, man, I need to start helping other people? I need to do something here.
Um, Well, it started way back when I just was sick and tired of being sick and tired and living the way that I was. Right. And so I started to do things, and I started to do things different. And I think I was always lucky that I had a really positive mindset. I've had jobs that, reinforce that. And so that part was there. And I had been in and out of therapy a couple of times. And, like I said, I think there's a time and place for therapy, but I wanted an outcome. And I think a lot of times in therapy, you rehash the same thing over and over every week, and there's no outcome. Right. And
Yeah.
then it was watching, the people here at the ranch, and remembering, I was a fierce advocate for my daughter when she was in school. And I remember some of the other parents who just didn't have it in them to fight for anything. Right. And I
Right.
thought, if I can do this for myself, I know so many people just in my wheelhouse that are, really suffering right now. And if I can make a difference, I want to make a difference, and I want to help them. And so that's kind of how it started. And I just, knew what I had done, and thought, okay, well, if it works for me, it's got to work for them, right?
Yeah.
And had worked with some of the parents at the barn and just kind of coached them. And it just, I don't know, Gary, it just works. It just,
That's
it just
awesome.
works.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's like probably one of the most necessary things I know, because, you know, unfortunately, April only lasted 2 years.
Yeah, I'm really
But
sorry.
that 2 years was like a million years in one sense, but it
Yeah.
was like 5 minutes in another sense. I mean, I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Hmm.
Um, would I do things differently? Some things, not a lot. There's a lot of things I wouldn't do different, because
Hmm.
she was mine to take care of. And I
Yeah,
think I was very greedy with that. And like I said,
sure.
that cost me some friendships. Um, but I think I would have definitely been a little bit softer on myself. I would
Yeah.
have been kinder and more gentler to myself, because, we really beat ourselves up as caregivers,
Hmm.
which is the most bizarre thing in the world, right?
Right.
Why do we
It's
do that?
Well, it's because we care so much. We love that person so much. And I always say, you have to learn to show yourself the same love and compassion that you give the person you're caring for. But when it is somebody that you truly just really love, you know, it just kind of comes with the territory. You do. You expect
Yeah.
way more out of yourself than somebody looking in from the outside. They probably
Yeah.
would have looked at you and thought, wow, what an amazing, husband he is. But for whatever reason, we can't seem to recognize that in us.
Yeah.
And that,
Yeah. My friend told me when she passed, I don't remember how many days in a row now, but She said, you know, you wore the same pair of pants for like 47 days in a row. I'm like, you counted? She goes, well, you kind of couldn't when you come in the office in the same freaking gold pants, you know. I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't remember having gold pants, but I
Yeah.
guess they were kind of like yellowish gold. I don't
Yeah.
even know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you just lose all sense of self. I mean, I
Hmm.
remember, clients of mine that we were close with. We had done a lot of business over the years. I'm a real estate broker by trade.
Okay.
Um, and we closed their house on December 8th of 2014. And that was the day that April passed.
Mm.
And I remember when they came to the service and they were like, dude, we didn't even know that she was that sick. And you literally called us that morning to say, she had that we had closed. And why did you do that? You know what? We could have had someone else call, but it's like you still are trying to be responsible to so many things
Yeah. You
as
go into
a caregiver, you
survival.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You go into survival mode,
yeah.
and I think a lot of times it's a way to protect, your thoughts and your feelings. If you keep busy,
Do you counsel people to not do that? Do you try to? I mean, when it comes to like scheduling and stuff, I mean, just like
yeah.
the day-to-day nuts and bolts of stuff. I mean,
Mhm.
do you guys talk about that at all? Like, dude, you gotta let some
Yes.
shit go.
Yeah, yeah, I do. That's a big topic. And it can be a little bit different for different people though. Like I have a couple clients right now that their spouses, are not going to last or live for very long. And so them wanting to spend every moment they can with them is a little bit different than somebody who has to take care of somebody now for the next 15, 20, 25 years of their life, right?
Yeah,
um but there's a lot of things that go into that too. It's learning to let go of the things that you really can't control, for one. And what really is important to you, go ahead and keep those. But if you need to do this and it's not really that important that you actually do it, then delegate it. you know don't do it, give it to somebody else, ask for help. But get out of the mindset that you have to do every single little thing. Because if you do, then how are you caring for yourself? Where are you going to take those moments to fill back up for, when you need that reservoir full and now it's depleted, you know, now what? And so there's a lot of coaching that goes around that. And just,
yeah.
learning to recognize, some things are out of your control, and takes a lot of energy to, try to control a circumstance or a situation. And also looking at, is that really why you're upset, or could something else be going on? Things like that. So, um, but yeah, you just have to just admit, I can't do it all myself. I gotta
That's
let
the hard
something
that's
go.
that's the hard one though, isn't it? I mean, that's
Yeah.
really hard as caregivers. We just feel like we got to do it all. Either we don't want to
Yeah.
burden other people, or we just feel obligated, or we
Hmm.
love that person so much we want to be the one that always, gives them the bath when you could hire someone to do that.
Yeah.
You can go take 15 minutes, go do something yourself.
Yeah.
But I guess it's so interesting because of what you're doing because I think we all think of caregiving as taking care of someone who's sick and maybe not coming out of it. But you kind of forget that like you with your daughter,
Yeah.
for her entire life and my my wife's daughter, I guess I'd make her my daughter-in-law, stepdaughter. I always mess that stuff up.
Yeah.
But they have a very autistic son. I mean,
Yeah. That's a
he's
full-time job.
I think 9, yeah, and he's never
Yeah.
spoken.
Yeah.
He's very autistic, very disabled, and I mean, it's just a full-time job.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, it really is. So, I mean, and they know that that's going to be a full-time job
Right.
for a long time, hopefully
Yeah.
forever, I mean, for the rest
Yeah.
of their lives.
Yeah.
So I guess you've got to take this, you kind of approach this in a couple different ways, I'd imagine.
Yeah. yeah, like I said, if you're caring for somebody who has, 3 or 6 months to live, it's a little bit different on, your time and what you actually are going to do for them, right? And I do think that, it is important. If you have somebody who's terminal and that, they might have a few months left, then yes, I'm going to encourage you to spend as much time as you want with them, right?
Yeah.
But if you have somebody that is going to, require care for 20 years, I'm going to encourage you to take time for you because you're going to need it, So those, those are a little bit different, but there's still a lot of the same common threads that go throughout, no matter, what type of caregiver you are, you
Yeah.
know.
Are there services out there? Are there more services that you sound like my wife's been gone 10 years. You've been caring for your daughter for what, 35 years. I mean, do you see, are there more services now for caregivers? Is there more help?
No, not really.
Mm.
There is not. No. There's a lot of different, state to state, it's different. There's state programs and things like that. But I don't think that people really realize how many caregivers there are, and what they really truly go through. I think it's 61 million right now. And just a few years ago, it was 57 million. Um, that is a lot of caregivers, and now you have the sandwich generation where, they're not only taking care of their own kids, but now they're caring for aging parents. And, but no, I do not think that there is enough out there for caregivers.
Yeah, we have money for everything else, don't we? We've got
Uh-huh.
billions here, billion. Everyone's like, oh, it's only a billion, it's only 50 billion, it's only 100 billion. It's like, you know what that could do here? You know how much
Yeah.
help $100 billion could do for
Oh, no
caregivers?
kidding.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's like such an astronomical amount of money, but it's like, oh no, let's send them another 100 billion. It's like, wait a minute, there's so much need here, and we're
Yeah.
just fighting over such stupid stuff. But you just brought up something that I'm having the pleasure of dealing with is, aging parents. Holy cow. I
Yeah.
mean, we're toddlers and they take care of us, and now they're toddlers and we're taking care of them.
Yes.
And talk
Yes.
about wanting to push Granny over a cliff. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, I swear you're killing me, Granny.
Yeah.
So there's that too, like you
Right.
said, that we're now forced into being caregivers and
Mhm.
to someone who's an adult, 3-year-old, and it's like it's
Yes.
very painful. It's difficult.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Do you have a coaching program for that too? Because I might need it.
I have a lot of clients in that situation right now, and they do. They're like, "Oh my God, I can't." And the stories that we tell, they're actually hysterical.
I
When you
love
get to
my
the point
mom.
where
She's
you can laugh about it.
Yeah, she's turning
Yeah.
90, and she's battier than a than and the sad thing is, I what we're dealing with my mom and like her generation of people. I'm like, God, you're living forever. Holy crap. You probably got another 10 years. She's so healthy. But the challenge is they lose purpose.
Yeah.
I see with her and a lot of her friends that are starting, the ones that are doing well still have a purpose. I want to keep
Mhm.
driving. I want to keep going places. I want to see my friends. I want to do this. And then the ones who just have lost purpose. My
Yeah.
mom worked all the way up until COVID. She was 38 years as a hostess at a restaurant. She loved it.
Mhm.
She ran the place, right? So when they
Yeah.
closed for COVID and then they didn't bring her back, she
Yeah.
lost her purpose. And I think it's that way with a lot of people who are ill too. It's like they
Mhm.
start losing their purpose, and then as a caregiver, that's just more guilt, right? That you're kind of piling on.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I think what people forget too is like, they're mourning also, you know, they're
Yeah.
going through a grieving process also. I have a couple clients right now who have they're taking care of their parents full time, and both happen to have the start of Alzheimer's. And you know, so my client is grieving, but then I have to, have her recognize so is your mom. She knows she's not the same person. that she was 5 years ago, you know?
Well, I kind of kid my mom. I say, I wish you'd get Alzheimer's. Jesus, you remember every damn thing. I swear to God, it's like since I was three, you're still mad at me for lighting the house on fire when I was three.
Yeah.
And do not tell my mom you're going to call her Thursday at 12:15, because if you
Because if you
call her at
don't,
12:20, your ass is crash, right? You're just going to hear about it for the
yeah,
next 10 years. But no, it's true. I mean, there's so many different aspects of caregiving. There's so
yeah,
many different aspects of being a caregiver. I'm like we've covered from an infant who is sick that you care for the next 35 years, from a sick husband, a dying wife, a parent. I mean, there's so many layers to it. I
yeah.
don't it's great that you're there, kiddo, because we all need help getting through it. Because, like I said, unless you've walked through it,
You
you
don't,
have
yeah,
no idea how wicked it
yeah,
is. You have
right.
no idea how wicked it is. I wish there was more
Yeah,
help out there. There should
yeah.
be, but
Yeah. My
I
biggest
don't
thing
know.
is I just want them to know that there is hope, that they don't have to continue feeling the way they feel and living the way that they're living. It doesn't have to be a life sentence, you know?
Yeah,
It's just some things just have to change. You just have to learn how to do a few things different.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I lied when I said I only had one question at the very beginning. 'Cause I actually have a last question that I usually ask people before we sign off, and you've been super gracious with your time.
Okay.
Um, If so, I always ask people when we sign off. It could be about anything. It could be about your coaching. It could be about your daughter. It could be about anything that you think. But if you have kind of a thought you'd like to leave people with, and something that was close to you, a saying or a thought or something that you'd like to leave people with, what would that one thought be?
I think I already said it, and that is to learn how to show yourself the same love and compassion that you show and give others so freely.
Yeah. Well, that's a good one, kiddo. And then how do we do that? Take your coaching class. Take your
Yes.
coaching class. There's a certain amount of guilt that comes with that. I swear. It's just like you want to step back. You're exhausted. You're at your end and you want to step back and you want to, do some self-care. And then that guilt kicks in like, oh, but I've got to do this. I've got to do that. Who's going to do it if I don't? And it's a vicious kind of cycle.
Well, my answer to that is if you continue doing the things that you're doing currently, how are you going to be there for the long haul? If you keep depleting yourself and not taking care of yourself, you're not going to be good for anybody. And then what's going to happen to the person that you're supposed to care for?
Yeah. Now you just made me feel guilty even more. No. So you got to do self-care. So, I love everything that you're doing, Lynette. I mean, I love what you're talking about with helping people manage the stress, overcome the overwhelm, prioritize self-care, set healthy boundaries, cultivate a resilient mindset. I mean, it's just so important. And anybody out there who's listening to this, how do we get a hold of Lynette? How do we find out about your coaching? Tell us what's going on with that.
Well, you can find me at LynetteWeldon.com. You can email me there. I'm on Facebook under Coaching with Lynette. You can join my private Facebook group, Empowered Caregivers Community. How else can you find me? TikTok, Instagram.
Okay. Well, we're gonna put on the end of the podcast or in the podcast thingy majiggy, your contact info,
Great.
links to
Thank
your
you.
stuff, links to your site and your coaching and things like that, so people can look into you and find you. I'm gonna send you a friend request at Coaching with Lynette. Is it
Okay,
Coaching with
great.
Lynette?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
send you a friend request on that, and everybody else should too.
Yes.
Let's get as many people on this link as we can and help Lynette Weldon with her awesome mission of
Thank you.
helping caregivers, because it's a wicked deal. So I'm really happy that you joined me, and I'm really excited for what you're doing and helping people. It's a great thing.
Oh, thank you so much. was a great
Yeah.
conversation with you, Gary.
Yay. All right, guys. Well, that was the amazing Lynette Weldon on another episode of the What If You Could podcast. Going to have all the links to contact Lynette, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much. See ya. Thanks again for joining us on another episode of What If You Could podcast. Please subscribe, like, share, and give us any feedback. We'd love to hear it. And remember, if you can dream it, you can do it. See you next time.